Hello everyone, I'm Devin Guerra, and I will be showing to you today my ENGI 430 final project detailing a decision support system we coded within Excel VBA, and this was for a client of Pearson Publishing. You may have heard of Pearson before. Pearson is a publishing company selling all sorts of educational products, so anything from textbooks to electronic learning aids, but one of their sort of sources that they use is a website called Salesforce. And right here you have a dashboard that highlights all of their sales opportunities for kindergarten through 12th grade math for the next 4 quarters. So this is just one of many dashboards that they have and that they use a lot of the data and statistics from. Our main area of focus, however, will be in this red square here where it says initial solutioning, formal presentation, proposal submitted, shortlisted, and verbal commitment. These are essentially the revenues that would come in for these different categories of data. This is another dashboard used by Pearson employees, also on this Salesforce website. But this details top opportunities left in the year. So this is obviously very crucial for them in trying to sell their products to potential customers. But the main area of focus is here is the total price. This is the revenue that would come in if they were to sell to one of these account names, as well as the category of data that we discussed in the prior slide. Here we have an Excel spreadsheet used by one of the employees, Jeff Guerra, and this current spreadsheet is very non-optimal and inefficient, but essentially there is no way to export data from Salesforce into a sheet. So you must manually go in and retrieve that data and type that into wherever you need it, basically. But this is his spreadsheet he has now. He has the amounts from Salesforce, a percentage of what he thinks will come in, essentially. This is based off prior year's data. And then a forecast. And this forecast he actually calculates by hand. He's not the most handy in Excel, so there's no formulas in place here. And then we have a total amount that will come in. And again, this is data from Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4 of the year, as well as from just the first half of the year. This is another spreadsheet that is used, and essentially what happens here is from that prior one, he copies and pastes that total and inputs it into one of these cells, makes any adjustments that he needs, and then sends it off to his boss, essentially. But this essentially details a lot of the nitty-gritty data and statistics for all the quarters, all the opportunities, as well as pipeline data, and just kind of predictions of what will come in. So what does all this mean in terms of a problem statement and a goal we have for this project? Well, the problem is that the Pearson sales employees have this currently obsolete and inefficient Excel sheet that they use to make a lot of their calculations, and this data they get from the Salesforce that is used extensively. So our goal is to create a visually pleasing and user-friendly decision support system within Excel VBA. This will analyze a lot of that Salesforce statistics that we just observed. And another thing we're going to add is sort of an optimized way of looking at their quota. A quota is some sort of goal they have for sales, so when they hit this quota, they'll get some sort of bonus. But we'll basically find the most optimal way of achieving this quota, so the fewest amount of sales they need to make in order to reach this number. So now we will dive right into our decision support system and give you a demonstration of the program itself as well as the code that goes into it. As you can see, this is our new Excel spreadsheet. Our client is Jeff Guerra, and we can start by launching the program with this button. So here we have our welcome screen. It has a nice little graphic and a start button, so we will hit that. And so we'll start by choosing an option from the drop-down menu below. We have 2 options, full year, which will display this frame, as well as half year, which will display this bottom frame. But we'll just do full year for the sake of it. Again, we have those stages we discussed earlier: prospecting, initial solutioning, all the way down to verbal commitment, as well as amount and percent. So we'll start by entering some values here. I'll just sort of make up some, and just for fun, we can add some wrong values that the system will not take. And so this will just be to demonstrate our sort of error checking that we put into this. The error checking was pretty extensive to ensure that the error cannot make any mistakes, as this user in particular is not the most experienced with Excel or VBA for that matter. And we'll enter our percents as decimals as directed above, and we'll make a mistake just just to do it. And so we'll calculate results, and we'll receive a text box that says we need to change our values, and another one for percentage. So we'll go back and change those to the correct ones. And this is really just to ensure that the user cannot break our system. 0.90 and 0.97. All right, now we'll calculate our results for those inputs. So here we have our results screen. Here we have our forecast, which was the amount multiplied by the percent, and we have these values here, along with the total that is calculated. Here we have a generated chart that shows all of those different categories, and sort of just a visual way of seeing which one is, I guess, will bring in the most revenue. And so one of the things we have here is the ability to copy to a clipboard. This will aid in helping the user transport that total to the other sheet, so I'll show you what that looks like now. So we'll go ahead and copy the total to the clipboard, and we'll go into our other sheet we have. And this is the one he sends off to his boss, so he can very easily click on where he needs to put it, Command V, and as you can see, it inputs that value into our spreadsheet, and then a lot of the formulas are just all the other values here. That's just a way of making this a lot more convenient for the user. Now looking back to this form, we have this other section for our quota calculation. This is where a lot of the optimization takes place. So it prompts us if you would like to calculate quota statistics, enter your current quota below. So we'll say our current quota, we need to make $800,000 more to achieve our quota. And so that will then run our solver. And so minimum opportunities needed, we need to make 3 sales, and if we make it to these 3 clients here, we will essentially achieve our quota. So that's just a really efficient way of showing maybe, hey, these are the areas where, from a sales perspective, we should focus on, and just very efficient for that user. We'll now take a look into our code, and this is the code for our input form. So we start by declaring our variables, and we have a select case, and this is to basically control the showing and closing of frames that was on that first input sheet. But we'll go down here, and we have a lot of our error checking that we've done, just to ensure they aren't inputting any letters, any negatives, or anything that isn't what we want that could crash our system. So that's pretty extensive. But here we have another select case, and this outputs those values that were entered by the user into a specific range in Excel. And then we have a bottom sort of thing here that whenever the form initializes, those frames are set to false, and that items are added to our drop-down menu, just to make sure that all works. And this is the code for our results sheet. So here we have a basic code that copies that total to our clipboard, so then we can just copy and paste that into something else. And then we have our solver button click. So we have a bit of error coding here, and then here's where we recorded our macro, used a sort of binary variable approach to solving this problem, and we did that with Excel Solver. So we just record the macro, get that in here, and when they click that button, that runs essentially, and outputs the lowest number of opportunities needed, and then the different opportunities that those were. And so upon initializing the form, we make these calculations here that you saw on that results form, and ensure that those come in a currency sort of format. And then here's our creation of our bar chart. And so essentially to create a bar chart in VBA, you have to export it as a GIF and then import it back into sort of an image. This is just a sort of a weird thing that Excel does, but if you want to put a chart in a user form, that's what you have to do. And here's just a sheet of our kind of some scratch work on just our sort of binary approach we took. Our objective function was to minimize basically these binary numbers here. So the solver will generate values from C15 to J15 with binary values. So those are all multiplied and added together with a sum product. That sum product is right here. And so as for our constraints, the one constraint is they all need to be binary variables, obviously. And the next is that we essentially our quota goal has to be greater than the sum product of the amounts from all the different opportunities multiplied by the decisions here. So those are our constraints, but just to show you what that looks like in Solver, we'll open it up and we have this. So we're minimizing this cell here by changing this little row, and then we have these three constraints here. We hit solve and it does that all for us. And that concludes the decision support system for Pearson Publishing. And if you have any questions about the code or sort of our optimization approach we took, feel free to leave a message and I can get that to you. But this project was actually one that was requested by the individual who works for Pearson. And they said, hey, I'm really not good at Excel. Could you do this for me? So hopefully this goes a long way into making their life easier.